Hey, what's up, guys? Nice to see ya.
Hey,
Hey, friends. Hold on a second.
Welcome to another episode of Packet Live, where we talk about community-related stuff for the PKT project. Happy to be here with you guys on Wednesday, April 16th. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Good. I'm gonna take Josh off because he's not standing there, but we'll bring him back on when he returns. Nice. How you doing, Jess? Nice to see you.
Good. Yeah, good to see you too. Very excited to chat today. We've been cooking on a lot of different fronts with Packet TV. That's where a lot of the attention and focus has been, and then a lot of kind of side maintenance projects on the Packet front, just continuing to tinker with and evolve the tech, and also a few websites that we talked about last week that are continuing to be developed. So a lot of good forward progress. And it's actually funny because last week we were talking about the markets being in the crapper, and last week, and usually on Wednesdays the markets crash. This has been a consistent thing for the whole entire year. And last Wednesday, the markets went the other direction. So it was a little inverse Wednesday. I'm not sure what's going on today, but...
Well, it was actually funny because if you remember on that stream, I was like, something's going on and you should start shorting the market. But it turned out that at that time, Trump had posted on Truth Social, good time to buy, which was his little insider trading to get all his people to start buying. And then a few hours later, or maybe like an hour after we finished, he reversed the tariffs. Paused the tariffs. So
yeah, he pushed out.
We saw the little pump during our show because all the people on the inside took his word for it. And he was right. It is a good time to buy.
Yeah, it's a good time to buy when you're doing insider trading. Yeah. And that was an impressive pump. He effectively destroyed the market and then reversed course and insider traded, and people made billions, and a lot of people lost a lot. You know, a lot of people, they always say you don't lose money unless you sell. But when the market's in a free fall, sometimes a nice strategy is to step out and get back in when you think you have directional clarity. But in this market, there is no such thing as directional clarity because people are manipulating the market so severely, and there's no real clarity on the direction of any of this policy, and the markets generally don't like uncertainty. So
it's always been that way, though. It's just such a pain in the butt, markets, because unless you're ready to just sit there for like 10 years, which is fine. You do the Warren Buffett move. But Warren Buffett has brass balls because he's been sitting there for since 2008, losing money, just waiting to hopefully be right again. And but I mean, if you're trying to play the markets, it's like, okay, you can go buy, a factory that makes diapers or something, and you'll be doing okay. You can buy Johnson & Johnson or something, and your money's pretty safe. But if you want to make lots of money, then you got to go buy the big tech stocks and Nvidia and all that. And all those stocks are super dodgy. They're only going up because other people are buying them. And yeah, sure, this is why everything goes up. But like the fundamentals of those companies do not match their valuations. So. Right. I mean, it's like, yeah, but if you want to make money, you got to jump in the bubble. But it's like, well, the bubble's not going to last forever. But then on the other side, yeah, but that doesn't matter because as long as you get in before the bubble and then the bubble gets bigger, you still made money. So it's just a pain.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't. Unfortunately, there used to be where you could kind of play the game, but. Yeah, this is a tough game to play, especially in the crypto space because it's so fragile and it's now tethered to the traditional market. So when traditional markets take a 1% drop, crypto takes a 50% drop, and it's a tough one for sure. But look, we've stayed true to the game, and we've been building, and we actually last time I had shown kind of the domain site, the kind of early set of it, but it's built now. We're just kind of doing bug testing right now. But yeah, that thing's live. We could show people it working.
Nice.
Put a UI on Caleb's back end, made it look pretty, and it seems like it's functioning. The next kind of iteration of it is to connect it with Shopify so that people can buy domains without needing any crypto. And so that's kind of the next iteration to put that whole workflow together. But it'll be cool because people will grab their domain and then or check to see if it's available, and then they can go pay for it with a credit card, and then the back end will go buy the domain for you and then transfer it to your Web3 wallet. So that'll make it just really easy where you don't need to have Packet, you don't need to have ETH on base. You can just go get a domain and have it sit in your Web3 wallet as an NFT forever with no reoccurring fees. And so that becomes really exciting offering.
Yeah, that's definitely where we want to get to. And I think the key is getting there with some energy, some momentum behind it, some awareness behind it, and really encouraging people to participate. And that's just going to be a marketing effort. So building all the tech and getting everything kind of queued up is step one. And then getting someone in the driver's seat to really help start to market this stuff is going to be the next piece. And I think a lot of that energy is going to come out of the Packet TV team as we get that thing set up, in the next month or two, and start getting some momentum again, and maybe some life gets breathed back into the crypto market, at the same time. I think there's some rumblings here that there'll be, some positive regression here on the crypto side.
There's a green candle today. It's just
what's that?
I said there's a green candle today. It's just after the darkest red candle you've seen. So
what I was gonna say is they put a 90-day pause on the tariffs in the U.S. and we know that that's having tremendous impact, and we know we're in a straight up trade war now, and also America's reputation has been obliterated on a global basis. But crypto is an international endeavor, and while it's very much tied to the U.S. markets, and a lot of this U.S. policy rattles those markets, and it's only a 90-day pause on tariffs, so whatever you end up doing over the next 60 could be heavily impacted in 90. But yeah, potentially some short-term reprieve, and it'll be good. On our front, it's just a focus on utility anyways, so there's an incredible opportunity right now to, and we've been saying this now for 6 months, in terms of packet price. But the other thing that's interesting for people who are providing nodes, I was just reading, how much you can put on one node now, and there's a lot of value in reshuffling your infrastructure. Obviously, we prefer to see as many nodes as possible on the map, but it's a great time to load up new nodes with Packet. It's a great time to be accumulating Packet. If there's one thing that we've been able to show as the core community and founding team members on this project is that we've been through now 3 bear markets, and or 2 bear markets going into the 3rd, and we just keep pushing ahead. So this is merely a blip in the radar, and we'll just have to keep the course.
Something interesting. I mean, this 90-day thing. This is just so that countries can negotiate because,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically everybody called the White House and then they said, okay, can you please give us just a couple days so that we can come to an agreement about how we're going to do things because we can't move overnight, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, they took a shot across the bow. They said this has to change, and then all the countries called back and said, yes, we're willing to change, but we need to talk about what the change is going to look like. China's out. They didn't even give them the reprieve. They're stuck. I keep getting these emails from because I buy stuff on AliExpress. I keep getting these emails that says the stuff that you have in your cart has gone down 40%. The stuff that you have in your cart has gone down 60%. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm in France, so I should probably go stock up on 37-cent whatever the hell it is that I wanted. But anyway, another interesting thing, and take this as you will, is I know a guy who is sort of an acquaintance, as a former CEO of a branch of an investment bank. Now he does commodities trading, and just his words about this, which I mean I don't talk to him on a daily, but his words was that this is the best thing they could have ever done. They should have done it in the 70s, and this is a commodities trader, so it's an interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where it pans out. I think where it ends up is going to be a lot different than where it started. Where it started was a kind of shot across the bow to put the fear of God into every country, and now where it's going to end up. I mean, there might be like some sort of a new free trade agreement between U.S., Europe, and a handful of other countries. We're going to have to see.
Yeah, well, it's a couple funny topics just on the tariff front. First off, every national and international calamity that occurs, everyone all of a sudden becomes a poli-sci expert, an economist, a foreign policy expert, international relations, Middle East relations expert. It's just like the new TikTok / Instagram, everyone's a lawyer now. Path is that you're now, because you watched a couple videos, you're know all the details. But it is good to hear what people's perspectives are, and people can give some interesting feedback. Some of the stuff that I've derived from my school of Instagram is there's been a couple times that we've done tariffs in America. The last several times all resulted in depression. So we'll just have to see where this shakes out. The other thing that sucks is that while there probably is some high quality reasoning and potentially even some good potential outcomes, execution is really important. Everyone can have like a good idea, but execution is so important. And you have to be an idiot to say that the way this was executed was well managed. There's this whole art of the deal, hit it with a hatchet wound and then get a staple gun and staple it back to, a flesh wound back together. That you could say is a good quality, opportunity or attempt at this. But there's 100 different ways that it could have been handled, more in a more measured way. And, we can always, hindsight 2020, cry over smoked milk type situation. But, the reality is we have an administration that has a propensity to do market manipulation, clearly flouts the rule of law, gutted the SEC. So what people are doing in the traditional markets is wild, arguably illegal in a lot of cases.
They deserved it.
And there's nothing anyone's going to do. What's that?
The SEC deserved it. They should have been gutted. They overstepped there. They stopped being. They
changed that law around.
They gave up their. What this is exactly the word, like they failed to maintain their responsibility. They failed to uphold their responsibility, so they should be gutted. I mean, maybe put something else in its place, but
you mean the SEC?
The SEC, yeah, the
It
apples
was,
are rotten. Throw it out.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. But still, market manipulation, to the detriment of people's 401ks and pension plans is wild, and I mean, those are the people that are harmed. If your name's Charles Schwab and you get a phone call from the president, 3 hours before he's going to put out a tweet, I mean, that should basically, it's insider trading, and that's illegal. And, that's the stuff that we know that's happening in the Oval Office at this point. And it is what it is. We, as the American people, can't really be surprised because that's what people elected, and what you get when you have these types of individuals in the in the places of power. But there's also, there's a whole subset of people that can complain about it, and then there's a whole subset people that are action takers, and you can put yourself in a good position and you can take action. And rewinding back to 2007, 2008, if in a lot of our generation was too young to take action at those times because we were all in our teenage years, that many years ago. But this is, kind of your opportunity. If you're in your mid 30s to, mid 50s, like, this is your opportunity to get another bite of the apple. It's not as deep of a recession as we saw back then, but there's still tremendous amounts of opportunity if your fingers on the pulse to look for ways to get involved with assets that are underwater or lower than they were 3 weeks ago, and also taking strategies to get yourself into the real estate markets. And if you're not taking action right now, then you would never take action, because this is where millionaires are made. This is where life-changing wealth is, and is possible.
I would say it's not just about catching a falling knife, but it's about, like, looking at, this isn't just really a recession. This is a restructuring of global trade.
That's a good point.
So you can kind of get out in front of that and say, okay, these are the commodities that are going to be interesting in the future. These are the projects, the investments that are going to be interesting. I mean, just looking at, okay, what is going to be American made in the future that wasn't in the past, and where's their real margin? Because, I mean, obviously, you can say, well, American made sneakers, it's yeah, sure, but it's not going to make that much margin. But where's there going to be big margin for new American made stuff? Where are the startups, and what is the technology that's going to thrive in this new environment that in the previous environment it just never really got off the ground because of the way trade was set up. So I think it's very exciting time to start to just look around at things that were nascent until recently, and now they have their opportunity to shine.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, well, that's one strategy. I was referring to the volatility specifically, because so what you're talking about is strategic reset and realignment, looking for more long-term edge opportunities and trying to position yourself based on where the market is tending to trend towards. Obviously, it's hard to get a clear directional indication right now, but you have to keep your eyes and ears open and do your research, and yeah, you'll find a directional edge. The other investment strategy is to trade on volatility, and it's that classic, buy when there's blood in the streets, and when there's greed, that's when you sell, and when there's fear, that's when you buy. And this is certainly a period of time where there's a lot of fear in the markets, for sure, and that fear is driven by uncertainty. And so if you look for what would be traditional stable plays that are impacted by short-term volatility, those are just good times to enter. And you might not catch the bottom, like you said, you might be afraid of a falling knife, but as they always say, like, if you would buy an asset at $5 and now it's $2, like, you should be buying that asset at $2 as well, even if it ends up going to $1, because you were excited about it at $5. And so there's Fortune 500 companies right now where where they're down 20-30%. I mean, Tesla's a great example, right? So Tesla was trading pretty consistently in the 300s, edged up into the 400s, and then right after the election was up nearly $500, $485 or something. Now it's $250 and below even. And so that's a 50% discount. Now, it's hard to know what happens in the leadership of that company. We know that there's huge, if you're to the almost the inverse of what you were just explaining, looking at the direction of America, energy efficient vehicles and specifically electric vehicles are probably on the opposite side of what places that you want to invest. But there's a lot of other aspects of the, Tesla company that are very, very interesting. And certainly from a long-term standpoint, it's a company that you should have, a small amount of exposure to. It's a great time to buy. It's like you're 50% off on that stock. And there's other stocks that are similar.
Where I think Tesla is going to really do well, and electric in general, is going to be inner cities, like metropolitan areas where they decide that they don't want to deal with the pollution of having everybody breathe all this smoke all the time. So they just say, all right, we're going to ban internal combustion in this like really, really inner area of the city. And then you have like fleets of taxis, either robo taxis or classical taxis going to full electrification, just because that's the only thing that they want to allow in these really compact, like Paris, like central Paris.
Great example.
That's a great. They don't want the smoke and the smog, and they just say, all right, we're done with that. Now, how well is that going to play out for them? Obviously, they're going to have to make concessions, and it's going to take a long time for that to play out. But you can definitely feel that in these tight cities, that those are the places that they're going to that electric is going to continue to evolve. Whereas I think a lot of the hype, the old Gartner hype cycle, and we're kind of going into the trough of despair, and people are saying, the batteries, they don't last, and it's too expensive, and it's not repairable. And so, for the longer range, more rural driving, I think people are going to go back to the internal combustion. But I think that the electrics and the autonomous is still going to continue to evolve in those compact city areas.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. Jeremy's been doing a lot around electric and studying solar and a lot of stuff in energy recently, and also just bought an electric car, and probably has got a lot of insights on this topic. But it's, from my perspective, who doesn't have anything but relationship to solar just on my old home. I've been disappointed with solar. I've been disappointed with electric with regards to vehicles in particular, just because of range, slow charging time. And I think it's insane that these vehicles don't have a small amount of gas tank that you can just like get a quick fill up.
That's what the Chinese ones do. Actually, they have a gas tank in them that doesn't use gas. It uses as a generator to charge the electric.
Yeah, that just seems so logical.
There was a French company literally in my town, and they had an idea that you would have a little trailer that you would attach to your electric car, and it would have a little gasoline engine on it, and and you could rent them. So if you wanted to go a long distance. I think they got rid of the engine because the emissions and whatever, and they went to little trailers with little batteries on them. But I think the idea of a trailer with a diesel generator on it, because diesel is a lot more efficient than gasoline. Trailer with a diesel generator, or just a diesel generator on board the vehicle, that would be good for rehabilitating an electric vehicle to be able to do long distances.
Yeah, look, the biggest problem with the electric vehicles is how fast they can charge, and the amount of charging stations for the amount of electric cars. So like here up in Northern California, especially like once you get over into like the San Jose, Saratoga, Los Gatos kind of area, everybody has a Tesla and everyone has an electric car. But the problems is that when you plug your electric car into an electric charger, it can, most of them can only do about 150 max kilowatts per, at a time. And if you have to charge up, 70 kilowatts, it's going to take 40 minutes. So for the car, like the car that I have, it takes, 40 minutes to fill it up. But you're using a charging station that can do 350 kilowatts. So it's silly that I'm using a charger that can do 350, but my car only goes to 150 max. And so really it goes to max 150 and then it comes down. And by the end of the charge, it's at like 100 or, 80. And then once it gets over 80%, then it drops down to like 30 kilowatts. So there's a long way to go, I think, for the cars to be able to charge faster. And also the cities need to 3 to 5x the amount of charging stations. So like if you're in LA, for example, okay, or even Southern California or anywhere down in, down there, the lines to charge your car can be 3 hours. It's ridiculous. It's like you pull up to a charging station and you need to charge because you're down at like 10, 15 miles, and there's 30 cars waiting to friggin' charge. It's like, what are you going to do? Sit there for 3 hours to charge your car? It's ridiculous. So the infrastructure to handle the amount of electric vehicles in California is just not there. And that's the biggest problem. So if you get an electric car, you have to have a charger at home. But the way that they get people to buy these charging cars or these electric cars is they'll like say, hey, we'll give you free charge for 2 years. But the problem is when you want to go get one of your free charges, there's 50 other people waiting to get a free charge. And so it's like, all right, is my time worth the free charge, or do I just do it at home and it costs me $20 to fill up my car? So, the cars are way nicer than gas cars, way smoother, way more enjoyable to drive. Unless you have like a muscle car or like a big truck or something that like you bought it because of the gas element. So, do I regret getting an electric car? I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet, but I probably, if the technology to charge faster doesn't increase over the next year, I probably won't get another one. It just doesn't make sense. If I'm trying to drive 6 hours and I have to stop for an hour, now my drive 7 hours.
Well, also the range is poor too. So it's like the combo of slow charging and really poor range. I mean, the fact that you can't even go 350 miles, you can't go the same distance as a 15 to 17 gallon vehicle on an electric vehicle. Then it's like you're not providing a comparable vehicle. And it's like,
well, some of them do. Some of them do. The one that I have doesn't. Mine is actually one of the lower ranges. But like if you get one of the Rivian trucks, those cars go like 450 on a charge, and they charge really fast. So those are like the highest tech ones. Obviously Tesla charges pretty fast if you use a supercharge station, but they only go like 310, 320. But when they get up to going 500-600 miles on a charge and can charge up in 15-20 minutes, then the game becomes changed. And then the electric cars become very, very viable for everybody to have. But if you can only go 250 miles or even less, 220, because the way the charging cars will actually work is, so let's say you charge up to 90%, because they never say to go to 100 because the battery, it's lithium. You never want to have a full lithium battery. And if you bought your car, if you leased it, who cares, right? Because
wait. If you're not supposed to charge it to 100, why don't they make the meter so it says that 100 is when it's at 90?
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So if you go to 100, so like to get your car to charge to 100%, once it gets past 80, it cuts the charging speed in like by like 70%. And then if you go past 90, you're like going at like 5 to 10 kilowatts all the way to 100. So like it will take forever. Like you'll be sitting at the charging station for an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours.
I guess when you just plug it in at home and leave it all the time, whenever, because I mean that's for me, that's kind of the reason to have an electric car is because you judge that electricity is going to be cheaper for you than fuel, and you just put it in your garage and plug it in and forget about it, and then you hope it doesn't burn your garage down. And,
I mean, look, you just don't ever, they highly advise not to go past 80, and if you own your car and you want it to last a long time, never go to 100, and unless you're going to go drive it immediately, because it says you never want your battery to sit full like that, because it can just deteriorate the battery pretty significantly. But when you drive the car, so it says let's say you went to 80 and you're at 250 miles on the charge. If you go fast, which if you have an electric car, that's the cool part about it, is they're super fast and they have crazy pickup. And if you use the AC or use the heat, whatever you're doing in your car uses the battery. So if it says 250 range, that's actually inaccurate, because you're going fast, you're using the AC, and it will drain faster than the 250. But the car also regenerates in a charge. So if you're not pushing the gas, then it will charge the battery.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get the Chinese ones because they just raised the tariffs to 245% retaliatory tariffs from China. So,
yeah, those new Chinese ones are crazy.
Yeah, they're real thick.
Nice. They look like Mercedes-Benz, and they're just so luxurious, dude.
Probably cost like $250,000 now with tariffs.
They're 40 grand to buy one, and it's like
now they're probably $250,000.
Well, those were never going to be legal in the U.S.
You couldn't ever go in here.
I see some what I believe are Chinese cars here in France, but the cars are a very, very political thing. Like, what cars are legal to have on the road in different countries, that gives you a very good, clear view of what are the alliances that country has. I mean, America has American cars, Japanese cars. America beat Japan and colonized them in World War II. German cars, America beat Germany and colonized them in World War II. And what else? What other countries' cars are in the U.S.? I mean, that's some like random British cars.
Yeah, well, Italian. Well, you have like the supercars. Like,
yeah, but that's kind of different. You know, like if you're going to sell it for over $100,000, then just kind of nobody really cares. You can import any car from any country if it's going to be that much of a supercar. But like the bread and butter of cars available in America, it's pretty much just America and the countries that America defeated in World War II.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that the market's not falling harder with that news that China just put a 245% tariff on the U.S.
China doesn't buy anything from the U.S. The only things China buys from the U.S. are
but not
things that China absolutely needs to buy from the U.S. They can't make it themselves, like certain drugs and certain like medical instruments, that type of stuff that only the U.S. knows how to make, and things that China agreed with the U.S. that they're going to buy from the U.S. as part of a wider agreement, like when they buy farm products, farm produce, like they buy tons of chickpeas or something. That's not because they have to buy it from the U.S. or because the U.S. even is the best choice for them. They could buy it from Russia, which they are now, certainly. But they're doing it from the U.S. To throw a bone to the U.S., make the U.S. happy, and the U.S. is giving them something in return. So if that goes away, it doesn't matter. They're just going to buy it from Russia, and Russia won't sell it to Europe and Africa, and Europe and Africa will buy it from the U.S., and everybody's happy.
Right.
Well, it's actually interesting that there's only 3 cars in the U.S. that are Chinese, that are made in China, and it's the Buick Envision, the Lincoln Nautilus, and the Volvo S90. So the new ones for 2026 are going to be a little bit more expensive if they're
probably just not going to be available. I mean, probably just going to stop trying
manufacturing
to sell them. just because, like, why? You try to sell something that nobody's going to buy, but even if nobody buys it, if one person buys it, you still have to provide the service, the parts, the supply chain, all that crap, and you're just better off to not do it, or to open a factory for building those, or build them in a factory. I live in a car factory town, and I see trucks driving by with all different brands of cars on them, new cars, and so all the different car companies, they just they call up the factory and say, "Hey, can you finish my car for me?" And so you've got like BMWs, Opels. Supposedly it's a Peugeot factory, but Peugeot is only one of many different cars that rolls out of that factory.
Yeah.
So they might do that in the U.S.
Yeah, look, I think that's going to need to happen. The interesting thing is, because we went through a supply chain, and just bring it back to Packet, and particularly on the Rowdy front, we went through a whole supply chain process, and we had a very narrow target as far as price and what we were trying to achieve. And we thoroughly shopped for the types of pre-built product that we were looking for. We ended up finding it in a couple different locales. We ended up going with Taiwan because, it's interesting, is 3 years ago, we were concerned about supply chain with China and the potential impact of a trade war. We actually predicted this pretty nicely. You predicted this, Caleb. You were very concerned about doing business with China. And we actually been concerned about this going back to 2020. So
we were doing business in Taiwan, that's
what I'm saying. We went to Taiwan because of more friendly relations with that area. But bringing it back to the supply chain, we actually also evaluated several different U.S. providers, and there was no competition to do business in the U.S. Like, it was not even possible. With the original grid node, that was out of Switzerland, if I remember correctly, or Sweden. I forget where it was. I think it was Switzerland. And then
Switzerland, but the company does not in business anymore, unfortunately. Right. They make a really nice product, a really nice little embedded computer, but they don't do it anymore. Maybe the guy just retired, or
it was a small shop. Obviously, it was a very small shop, but still,
one guy.
We couldn't find this type of stuff in the U.S. Like, we really struggled, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. So it will be interesting to see, what comes to the U.S. in terms of semiconductors, and if this does start to spur a growth of semiconductor production in the United States, it will obviously be great for American industry in the computer technology space. I mean, straight up, because there's just there's no one building this stuff here. So
there's a lot of this stuff with the CHIPS Act that came in under Biden, and that definitely moved a lot of industry to the U.S. But the interesting thing about this, like, providing jobs, is that humans aren't making these things anymore. It's all machine made. Like, the robotics are so good now that you're basically like, you got robots making all the things, and then you got humans just lubing up the robot's butthole. But, like, it's actually just like the robot that's doing all this stuff now. It's nothing like, there's not bringing more jobs here. There's just more people to, like, make sure the robot doesn't break.
As far as semiconductors are concerned, it's true. All of the fancy work is done by robots. All the advanced stuff, it's not robots, like
machines.
Yeah, exactly.
It's being a little sarcastic, but
there's a machine that's you put the crystal on it, and it shoots the circuits onto the crystal. But just being in that room, there's so much. If you do the wrong thing, if you mess something up, there's so much damage that you can do in that room. You can literally in the space of 30 seconds or a minute do billions of dollars worth of destroy billions of dollars worth of capital. So you have to be really careful about what people they hire, and I think they like Taiwan for this, because Taiwanese were known for being very what's the word, fastidious type of people, very, very exact, attention to detail. And I think that coming back to the U.S., I see that I mean AMD wants to do some work in the U.S. There's a lot of talk about it. There's been a lot of talk about doing fab work in the U.S. for a long time. It hasn't really amounted to much, and they've never really gotten out ahead of TSMC in Taiwan. I mean, TSMC makes all the best chips. All the best stuff is made right in Taiwan. I think that they're really serious about wanting to move it to the U.S. just because not only they like to do more manufacturing in the U.S., but they also want to de-risk Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. They want to de-risk themselves from a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. So, making all the world's chips in Taiwan is not ideal, but they need to. I think that there's going to need to be some relaxation of the hiring rules, especially like the civil rights stuff, because they need to be very, very particular about who they will and will not hire when they're putting people in these fabs. That's the word on the street that I've heard.
I read that
about the situation with American fabs.
I just read that they to actually get this done, if we're going to bring the American, or if we're going to improve the American semiconductor manufacturing and innovation technology strategy to American soil, then we're going to need to open up an immigration lane for the expertise that's been, and I was reading about this specifically for Apple. So for Apple products to be manufactured in the U.S., that's 600,000. They would need to allow 600,000 people to immigrate to America to bring the Apple supply chain onto American soil, because over the last 25 years for Apple to build their supply chain, and they were saying that this is just for the iPhone, but to include their entire product line, you would need probably close to 1 million people would have to come to America because they'd have to bring all that expertise that they've trained over all those years to be able to, bring in the factory is one thing, but it's the intelligence and the expertise and the experience and, the training, and all those people that's where the value is. That's where the investment.
I was actually watching an interview with Tim Cook, and he said, he's like, China stopped being the cheap place years ago. The thing is that it's the expertise that's there, that if you want to go build this in the US, there's just not enough people that are experts at what we do that could actually build this in America. And so, but when you go to parts of China, like, everybody is trained to do that. Like, that is like the key skill that entire city is focused on learning, because there's this incredible opportunity to get a job working for Apple. And so they have just an incredible amount of intelligence concentrated in a single place. So to your point, just to be able to move those supply chains, you need to have the supply chain, but the people also.
The thing that sucks is if we had better leadership with a more measured hand, it's one thing, like I said, to have a good idea, but execution is key. And if we had a more measured hand, said, hey, over the next 5 years, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, we want to carry on the directional the directional strategy from the Chips and Science Act, and we want to now actually effectuate this. This is the timeline that you have to bring your supply chains here. You can apply for grants for and appropriate supplemental appropriations for semiconductor related programs, and you can get these things, get the support from the government to bring your supply chains to the United States over the next 2 years. And you wouldn't have wrecked the market. You wouldn't have tanked people's 401ks and pension plans. And you could have really had the world get behind this without being so confrontational and disruptive. But
the American policy has always been very chaotic. Going back as far as I can remember, they never really tell you what they're planning to do. But there is some sort of a policy that does transcend presidents, because I mean, like, you have the tariffs on China that were put by Trump in his first presidency, and then Biden came to office and everybody thought, oh well, he's going to roll that all back. Well, he didn't. He maintained all of that. So that goes to show you that there's somebody behind, there's a man behind the curtain somewhere who's kind of setting American policy, and then one president to the next, and different presidents come into office, and they I'm sure that the policy makes so much sense to them when they read it that they just kind of go along with it. But I think that I wouldn't say, I mean, there's the whole four-dimensional chess stuff is that it's risky, because you can start thinking that every action it's got some deep thought behind it, even if it doesn't. But I think that on the other side of it, it's not necessarily that there is no plan. They may just not be telling you the plan, because
100%.
well, it's always going to make winners and losers, and the losers aren't going to like the plan. So you're not going to tell them in advance what's about to happen, because what's about to happen is going to destroy their capital. So
And classic politics is usually what everybody's paying attention to, is not what's actually happening. I mean, if you look back at 9/11, everyone was just like, oh my God, we need to go and do this. And all the while, your freedoms were just getting ripped away from you with your privacy and the Patriot Act and all this stuff that just happened. They name it these really patriotic names, but really your freedoms are just getting ripped out from underneath you, because you're looking over here, but really over here, all this other stuff's happening. So let's not be naive to think that, like, tripping up the markets, creating chaos wasn't an actual thing to be able to create chaos so that you could go get 111 executive orders through, and they can't look at all of them because you're looking over here, you're looking over there, your education's gone, Trump University just came up, and then there's all this stuff is happening all at once, and you're just like, it's chaos. So you can't even, people are getting deported, like there's just so much shit happening that you can't even process it all at once, and let's not pretend that's not intentional.
The old saying is that when the Anglo comes to attack you, it comes like a circus, and it leaves and your pockets are empty. That's I mean, going back as far as you want, the pre-America Anglos, it's always, whenever they take an action, it's always chaotic, it's always crazy, it always makes no sense, and then it makes sense after the fact, and you look back and you go, whoa, wow, they screwed everybody. Now, it doesn't mean that every action has this deep thought behind it. It just means that, like, we don't really know what they're thinking, what is three-dimensional chess, and what is, oops, shouldn't have done that, let's retarget, let's retry.
Well, they wrote a very thick book on what was going to happen in this administration, and people pretended like that didn't happen, and like Trump never read that book. But that book's pretty much a playbook of what's exactly happening. So,
they've already done 70+%
of it.
Book? Project 2025. I mean, that thing's a playbook that's literally just playing out. You're just going through every single page and just lining up with actions that are happening. I mean, it's pretty actually impressive to watch that playbook just kind of go through and just happen. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have said that just is.
Well, look, guys, let's I want to steer back just a second here. Somebody from our community actually created something pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with everybody on here today. Let me
do it
up. It's a game for it's called Block War. Obviously this is like the first version. Essentially you can like draw anything, you can leave a name, you can promote your website brand, you can design a country flag or draw whatever you want. And to do it, it costs 0.025 PKT, which is like, fractions of a penny. And then I guess it and the blockchain that rewards users to operate physical infrastructure get a small bonus by using a code. That's if you sign up for and do some staking. But
code, baby, let's go.
Yeah, seriously, if you want to do some staking, head over to this app. It's blockwar.pkt.live. The cool thing about this is it is live on the Packet network. So
that's dope.
It's the first game that somebody built for the Packet network. And
yeah,
so
we tried to have the first game with the Plinko, but our guy just like dropped off the map.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm following this guy on Instagram, and he's doing a series where he gambles for everything he spends money on. Yeah. So if he goes and buys like a cheeseburger that costs $30, he'll go and gamble $30 to try to win it back. And man, this guy is funny. Sometimes he just like cooks, and most of the time he
Dude, I watched that guy lose $400 trying to buy like a soda.
Yeah, he had a $10 soda and lost $600.
Bro, he's so bad.
Coffee.
Yeah, he's just a degen, dude. But then he'll win $1,000 on a $500 hand, or he'll bet 1,000 and win 1,000. And I mean, the guy's a total degen, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
this is not quite like that, and it's just cool to see people, building stuff, which is what this network is for people to build things. You get your free domain. All you got to do is stake a little bit of Packet to get your free domain, which is you can get at on the Packet website. So yeah, once and there's a lot of really cool things happening with Packet TV. Josh, Jess, do you guys want to kind of spend the last like 5 minutes? If there any kind of like announcement or any kind of like progress that we've been putting out there that you guys want to kind of just update the community.
Yeah, I can share. I'll share my
and the stream, around at 10 o'clock. Also, real quick, Josh, before you share, for all the 89 people that are watching this stream, we appreciate you taking, time in your day to sit with us. I know we went down the rabbit hole with politics and, tariffs and policy and things like that. And, that's the kind of thing about this live stream is that it is whatever we want it to be. If we want to sit here for an hour and talk about, politics, or we want to talk about blockchain or finance or whatever, that's what we're going to do. But if you have any questions, it's all interconnected.
I mean, everybody's asking the same question: is I got $1, sure, where should I put it? And, of course. And I think that's really useful. I mean, it doesn't pay anything to get angry about politics. That's for your entertainment. But when we're talking about getting out in front of new trends, I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, no doubt. My only point was that like we appreciate you all staying here with us today. And if you want to retweet the stream on X, or comment, or if you have questions or anything like that, just holler at us. This is the founding, team of Packet, and we've actually been doing this live stream for over 5 years. I mean, it's had different forms of it. We've been doing the live for about coming up almost on a year, every week. But we used to do a Wednesday call, and then we were doing X Spaces, and we were trying all the different things that we could do to like maximize the amount of people that could join. And doing it as a live, we've noticed we have the largest audience when we do it. And so that's kind of why we've stuck with it over the last,
Yeah. And to Jeremy's point, Packet was birthed out of this Wednesday call. We were doing this Wednesday call back in 2018. And it was Caleb, myself, Josh, a couple other early community members that were just riffing, chatting, sharing ideas, talking about what it would be like to have a blockchain that was powering.
Talking about politics back then.
We were talking about politics back then because it was pre-COVID, and then once COVID happened, then we were talking about everything relating to COVID, and then going into the bull market of 2021, and and we've had all these iterations, and it's always been this team jumping on a call and just talking politics, talking technology. And now that the project is so much more mature in the dashboard and people are running infrastructure, and in the background, we're building Packet TV now, which for the people watching this soon, we'll have an app. It'll be a year, let's just say, realistically, but we'll have an app where you're literally watching content that community members around the world are contributing into the ecosystem. And you'll be able to know that network is powered by the infrastructure that we've been building over, and community members have been contributing over many, many years. So it's really exciting and rewarding. And these calls used to just be a call that we would do where we would just get on a conference call, and we were very resistant early on to bringing the community into this call. I don't remember exactly why, but it always felt like we would, because sometimes you have to talk about things for months and months and months before they happen, and everyone wanted like now. So we were always fearful to have people participate in these calls, but now we just got used to doing them as a live. And so when you're just sitting here listening to us chat, it really is the building blocks and the bedrock foundation of the Packet project. And even though we didn't talk a lot about Packet technology for the last hour, this is the kind of relations and camaraderie that have really been what's kept the project together and kept the project moving forward for, I guess now going on 7 years. So for the people that are just listening for the first time, or the people that have been tuning in every single year, yeah, as Jeremy said, we absolutely appreciate you showing up every Wednesday, and we'll continue to show up every Wednesday no matter what, while we stay the course. And irregardless of whatever the market cap is and whatever the price chart says, we have a clear vision of what we've been doing. Caleb's been working on CJDNS since he invented it in 2011. And so this is truly still a viable and directional project. And we're actually thrilled with where things are headed. Obviously room for improvement on every front, but a lot of excitement with where things are headed at this point. So yeah, fire away, Josh.
So this is where you connect your wallet.
What website is this on? Where can someone find this?
It's not live yet. This is just
Okay.
a testing environment, but
where will it be live?
We're gonna test it live. We haven't concluded that yet, but
no. But where do you want this thing to be found? Is it going to be on PacketPal's site? Is it going to be on Rowdy's site? Is it going to be?
Like I said, we'll get back to that. Okay. That's a discussion to have. But in the nature of here, let's see if this works. Does it tell you here? Well, I gotta see if this oops. I was trying to go get the Trump in the
Trump
nature of
PKT
conversation. So right here, this shows you how much a domain costs. So it's always better to do like a little bit more.
Yeah, Josh, we couldn't see that page, just so you know.
What page?
Oh, did it say on there how much it was?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I got you. Sorry.
So just do a little bit above whatever it says, and then we'll see if it works. I don't know if somebody's already. Oh, there's a thing that says Trump's already taken. So that's cool. What's a domain?
Do Trump 47 or something.
No, I was gonna say you could just get like a company name, like a big company. Try and get WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.pkt. How about whatsapp.pkt? All right. So you can see the transactions going. Oh, it says I'm low on funds. That's cool.
What do you? Oh, you need Packet on base, or you need Ethereum on base.
Hold on, let me make sure it's connected.
That's pretty clean. I like the UI though.
That is great.
That for it, rather than a wall of red, just random numbers and letters that you don't know what the error message even means. That's
all right. It was
pretty good.
connected to the wrong wallet. All right, so let's see.
Round 2.
There we go. You can't see, but it's having me sign the transaction with my wallet. Things are happening.
So we got the stake.
There we go. Now it's having me sign it again.
Looking pretty good.
Well, this
Live
number's
demo.
not right. It says stake on
Yep.
the right.
Up 2.
Right, but I put 1,200, so it should.
Oh,
Well, it must have only needed. It must have only needed that.
Yeah, that's right.
it only did 1,000.
All right, I just got the notification in my wallet.
Bang.
And confirm
Dude.
request.
Golf clap. For a live demo.
Let's see what happens.
Gotta give props where props are due. Live demos.
Boom! Registration complete, baby. Let's go.
I love it.
Oh, it's got this little animation. That's nice. Nice
Dude.
touch.
Fire.
Yeah, it's great. Beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
We built something,
Done.
boys. Worked live.
Yeah.
So go get your domain if you haven't. It's that simple.
Hey, it doesn't get easier than that. That was hot, rather than having to go think about what it had to be. You had to go do a stake and then you had to go over here and do a thing. So good job, Caleb. And good job to the dev on building this front end contribution. It's that's great. That's freaking great. So good job, Josh. Also carrying that one to the finish line.
I did it. Here, show this again, Jeremy. So the next iteration is domain register. And so he hasn't fixed this yet, but this shows that this is still a work in progress, but it's only actually calculating when this is like backwards actually. So like if it was like Josh 1. Oh, I see. Yeah. So if it's available, you can click register, and if it's not, but unfortunately it still has the green check mark. So anyways, there's some bugs for this flow, but we'll make it so you can have custody it or do a hosted option. So if you're wanting to host it, then we'll host it for you for an annual fee, and then we'll keep it in our wallet and manage it for you for people who don't have a Web3 wallet and still want to participate. So anyways, that's work in progress, but yeah, good stuff.
Fantastic.
That's great. Yeah. And we can talk more about it on the next one about where these use cases come in, but obviously this is just going to be great for people simplifying going and getting your domains, because there's a little bit too much friction there with the multi-step process. So great job streamlining that.
Yeah. Great job, guys. All right, cool. Well, thanks to everyone who joined in today, especially you guys for taking the time out of your day to sit here, chat, and we'll catch you guys in a week next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you guys all have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day. Cheers all.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye.